The words hit me like a freight train on what should have been an ordinary Wednesday evening. My wife sat across from me at our kitchen table, fidgeting with her wedding ring as she delivered the news that would change everything. I want a divorce. No build-up. No explanation. Just 4 words that shattered 12 years of marriage while I was finishing my leftover pizza from dinner. I set down my slice and looked at her, waiting for some kind of elaboration, but she just stared at the table like she was reading invisible instructions. Okay, I said, keeping my voice steady. Can I ask why? She launched into this rehearsed speech about growing apart, wanting different things, feeling unfulfilled. The usual divorce playbook. But then came the part that really caught my attention. But here's the thing, she said, suddenly looking more animated. I don't want us to become strangers. I think we can still be close friends after this. Really close friends. We've been together so long. It would be weird to just cut each other off completely, right? I nodded slowly, processing what she was really asking for. She wanted the freedom to pursue whatever new life she had planned, but she also wanted to keep me around as her emotional support system, her handyman, her emergency contact, and probably her financial backup plan. Close friends, I repeated. What exactly does that look like to you? Her face lit up like she'd been hoping I'd ask. Well, we'd still be there for each other when we need support. Still help each other out with problems. Still be able to call each other when something important happens. Just without the marriage part. I almost laughed. She wanted all the benefits of having a husband without actually being married to one. But instead of pointing out how ridiculous that sounded, I decided to play along. That sounds reasonable, I said, watching her shoulders relax with relief. Friends help friends, right? Exactly. She seemed genuinely excited now. I'm so glad you understand. I was worried you'd be angry or try to fight this. Why would I fight it? If you want a divorce, then that's what we'll do. And if you want to be close friends afterward, I'm open to that too. She reached across the table and squeezed my hand. Thank you for being so mature about this. I knew you'd get it. What she didn't know was that I was already thinking about what this friendship would actually look like. Real friends have boundaries. Real friends don't drop their problems on each other every time life gets complicated. Real friends definitely don't expect each other to solve their financial emergencies or provide unlimited emotional labor. Over the next few weeks, as we went through the motions of filing paperwork and dividing assets, she kept bringing up this friendship idea. She'd mention how nice it would be to still have someone to call when her car made that weird noise. How comforting it was to know she could still reach out when she was feeling overwhelmed. How great it would be to maintain that connection we'd built over the years. I agreed with everything she said, because technically, she was right. Friends do help each other. They just help each other very differently than spouses do. The divorce process was surprisingly smooth. We didn't have kids, and we'd kept our finances mostly separate after some early marriage arguments about money. She got the house because she wanted it and could theoretically afford the mortgage payments with her job at the marketing firm. I moved my stuff out over a couple of weekends, staying temporarily with my brother while I figured out my next move. The whole time, she kept emphasizing how this was just a transition, not an ending. How our friendship would be even better than our marriage because there wouldn't be any pressure or expectations. How we'd both be happier this way. You'll see, she said as I loaded the last box into my truck. This is going to work out great for both of us. I nodded and gave her a quick hug goodbye. I'm sure it will. And I meant it, because I had a feeling she was about to get exactly what she asked for. 3 days after I officially moved out, my phone rang at 9 p.m. Her name appeared on the screen, and I let it ring twice before answering. Hey, what's up? Oh my God, I'm so glad you picked up, she said, and I could hear the stress in her voice. The garbage disposal is making this horrible grinding noise, and I think it's broken. I tried looking online, but all the instructions are confusing. Can you come take a look at it? I paused for a moment, letting the request sink in. Tonight? Well, yeah. I can't use the kitchen sink until it's fixed, and I have a big presentation tomorrow, so I really need to get this sorted out tonight. I said thoughtfully. That does sound frustrating. Have you tried calling a plumber? There was silence on the other end. A plumber? For something this simple? That would cost like $200. Yeah, probably. But that's what people usually do when their garbage disposal breaks. But you know how to fix it. You fixed it before. I have. When I was your husband. But now we're friends, remember? I could practically hear her brain working through this logic. Right. But friends help each other with stuff like this. Absolutely. And as your friend, My advice is to call a professional or maybe ask one of your other friends if they know about garbage disposals. I'm sure someone in your social circle has dealt with this before. The silence stretched longer this time. So you're not coming over? Not tonight, no? I've got plans. Which was true. My plans involved a beer and a Netflix show, but they were still plans. Oh, okay. I guess I'll figure something out. I'm sure you will. Good luck with your presentation tomorrow. After I hung up, I couldn't help but smile. The friendship era had officially begun. The garbage disposal incident was just the beginning. Over the next 2 weeks, I got a masterclass in what my ex-wife thought friendship meant. First, it was the smoke detector. Apparently, the battery died at 3 a.m. and she couldn't figure out how to change it. Instead of dealing with the beeping until morning like a normal person, she called me. I can't sleep with this thing going off every 30 seconds, she whined into the phone. Can you just come over real quick and fix it? At 3 in the morning? It'll take you like 2 minutes. I sat up in bed, fully awake now. Here's a crazy idea. Take the battery out and deal with it tomorrow. I don't know how to take it out without breaking it. YouTube exists. Or you could ask your neighbor. Didn't you say Mrs. Johnson was always up late watching her shows? I can't bother Mrs. Johnson at this hour. But you can bother me? That seemed to catch her off guard. Well, yeah, because we're friends. Friends help each other. Friends also respect each other's sleep schedules. I'll text you a YouTube link for changing smoke detector batteries. I hung up and sent her the link. The beeping stopped 20 minutes later, so apparently she figured it out just fine. Then came the car trouble. Her check engine light came on during her lunch break, and she immediately called me in a panic. What if it's something serious? What if the engine explodes while I'm driving? Cars don't usually explode from check engine lights, I said, trying not to laugh. When was your last oil change? I don't know. A while ago. How long is a while? Maybe 6 months. I whistled. Yeah, you probably need an oil change. And maybe a tune-up while you're at it. Can you take it to the shop for me? You know I hate dealing with mechanics. They always try to upsell women. I'm at work right now. After work then? After work, I have plans. But I can recommend a good shop. They're honest, and they don't care if you're male or female. Another long pause. You're really not going to help me with this? I'm helping you by giving you the name of a trustworthy mechanic. That's what friends do. They share information and resources. She made this frustrated noise. Fine. Whatever. I'll handle it myself. Great. Let me know how it goes. The pattern continued. She needed help moving furniture, but I was busy that weekend. She wanted me to review her resume because she was thinking about switching jobs, but I suggested she use a professional service instead. She had a clogged drain and assumed I'd come running with a plumber's snake. Each time, I politely declined and offered alternatives. Each time, she seemed genuinely shocked that I wasn't dropping everything to solve her problems. The breaking point came on a Friday evening. I was grabbing dinner with my brother when my phone started ringing. I let it go to voicemail, but it rang again immediately. And again. You should probably answer that, my brother said, looking concerned. I checked the screen. 7 missed calls from my ex-wife. I called her back, thinking maybe it was an actual emergency. Finally, she practically screamed into the phone. I've been trying to reach you for an hour. I was having dinner. What's wrong? I locked myself out of the house, and I don't know what to do. I waited for more information, but apparently that was the whole crisis. Okay, did you call a locksmith? A locksmith? Do you know how much those cost? Probably less than you think. There are 24-hour services. But you have a spare key. This was true. I'd forgotten to give it back during the move. I do have a spare key. So can you come let me in? Where are you right now? Sitting on the front porch. It's cold, and I really need to get inside. I looked across the table at my brother, who was trying not to eavesdrop, but clearly hearing every word. Have you tried the locksmith route? I called one place, and they said it would be $200, and they can't come out for an hour. So you'll be inside in an hour for $200. That's ridiculous. You could be here in 20 minutes for free. I could, but I'm not going to. The silence that followed was deafening. Excuse me. You wanted to be friends, right? Well, friends don't expect each other to drop everything and drive across town to solve problems that have perfectly reasonable solutions. Friends definitely don't expect each other to be their personal emergency services. But this is different. This is an actual emergency. Being locked out is inconvenient, not an emergency. You're not in danger. You're not hurt. You just need to make a decision about whether $200 is worth not sitting on your porch for an hour. I could hear her breathing getting heavier. I cannot believe you're doing this to me. I'm not doing anything to you. I'm being your friend. And as your friend, I'm treating you like a capable adult who can solve her own problems. This is not what friendship looks like. Actually, this is exactly what friendship looks like. Friends have boundaries. Friends don't expect unlimited free services. Friends respect each other's time and plans. She hung up on me. My brother raised his eyebrows. That sounded intense. She's learning that divorce has consequences. Think she'll figure it out? I picked up my burger and smiled. Eventually. Or she'll run out of emergencies. Either way works for me. An hour later, I got a text message. Locksmith came. $180. Thanks for nothing. I texted back. Glad you got inside safely. See, you handled it perfectly. She didn't respond. The real test of our new friendship came 6 weeks after the divorce was finalized. I was enjoying a quiet Saturday morning when my phone buzzed with a text that made me nearly choke on my coffee. Emergency. Need to talk ASAP. Can you come over? Against my better judgment, I decided this might actually be serious. When I arrived at what used to be our house, I found her sitting at the kitchen table surrounded by paperwork, looking like she hadn't slept in days. Thank God you're here, she said, jumping up to give me a hug that I didn't return. I'm in serious trouble. I sat down across from her, noticing past due notices mixed in with the papers. What kind of trouble? The mortgage payment is due on Monday, and I'm short. How short? She looked down at her hands. $800. I leaned back in my chair. $800 wasn't pocket change, but it wasn't catastrophic either. What happened? The car repairs ended up being more expensive than I thought. Then I had to replace the washing machine because it completely died. And there was that work conference I had to attend out of pocket because they're reimbursing me next month. I nodded, doing the math in my head. She'd made a series of poor financial decisions and now expected someone else to bail her out. So what's your plan? Well, I was hoping you could help me out. Just this once. I'll pay you back as soon as I get my work reimbursement. There it was. The real reason she wanted to stay friends. The ultimate safety net. You want me to loan you $800. I know it's a lot to ask, but I'm really stuck here. If I miss this payment, they'll start the foreclosure process. I could lose the house. I studied her face, looking for any sign that she understood the irony of what she was asking. Let me make sure I understand this correctly. You divorced me, took the house, and now you want me to help pay for it. It's not like that. This is just a temporary setback. I can afford the payments normally. Can you though? Because if you're $800 short after 2 months of being on your own, maybe you can't actually afford this house. Her face flushed. I can afford it. I just had some unexpected expenses. Right? And when the next unexpected expenses come up, what then? That won't happen again. I almost laughed. Come on. Life is nothing but unexpected expenses. The water heater will die. The roof will leak. Property taxes will go up. That's homeownership. She was getting frustrated now. So you're saying you won't help me? I'm saying that friends don't typically make each other's mortgage payments. That's more of a spouse thing. But this is an emergency. No, this is poor planning. An emergency is when a tree falls on your roof. This is just regular adult consequences. She stared at me like I'd grown a second head. I can't believe how cold you're being about this. I'm not being cold. I'm being realistic. You wanted independence, remember? You wanted to handle your own life. Well, this is what that looks like. So you're just going to let me lose the house. I'm not letting you do anything. You're making your own choices. And if you lose the house, that's also your choice. She started crying then, which I'd been expecting. It was her go-to move when logical arguments weren't working. Please, she said through the tears. I'm begging you. I'll do anything. You could sell the house. What? Sell the house. Downsize to something you can actually afford. Problem solved. I'm not selling our house. It's not our house anymore. It's your house. And if you can't afford it, then you need to make different choices. She wiped her eyes and looked at me with a mixture of anger and desperation. What happened to you? You used to care about me. I do care about you. That's why I'm not enabling your bad decisions. Enabling? This is one payment. This is one payment this time. What about next time? And the time after that? How many mortgage payments am I supposed to cover before you figure out you're living beyond your means? She didn't have an answer for that. I stood up to leave. Look, here's some friendly advice. Call your mortgage company and explain the situation. They might work out a payment plan. Or call your parents. Or take out a personal loan. Those are all normal things that people do when they're short on money. My parents already think the divorce was a mistake. I can't ask them for money. Then maybe you should consider the possibility that they might be right. I headed for the door, but she followed me. Wait, what if I paid you interest? Like a real loan? I turned around. What if you acted like the independent adult you claimed you wanted to be? This isn't fair. Fair? You wanted out of this marriage. You wanted to be on your own. You got exactly what you asked for. The fact that it's harder than you expected doesn't make it my responsibility. But we're friends. Friends don't ask friends to pay their mortgages. Friends respect boundaries. I walked to my car while she stood in the doorway, still crying. Part of me felt bad for her, but a bigger part of me knew this was necessary. She needed to learn that actions have consequences, and that divorce meant actually being divorced. On Monday evening, I got a text, found another solution. No thanks to you. I texted back, glad to hear it. That's what friends do. They figure things out. I never found out what her solution was, but 3 weeks later I drove by the house and saw a for rent sign in the front yard. Apparently, she decided to move in with a roommate and rent out the house to cover the mortgage. It was actually a smart decision. I was proud of her for figuring it out on her own. That's what friends are for, after all, believing in each other's ability to solve their own problems. Life has a funny way of throwing curveballs when you least expect them. 3 months after the mortgage incident, I was at my cousin's birthday party at a local sports bar when I spotted a familiar face across the room. It was my ex-wife's best friend, sitting alone at the bar nursing a beer and looking like she'd rather be anywhere else. We'd met several times during the marriage, but I'd never really talked to her one-on-one. My ex always dominated those conversations. I debated whether to approach her. Things with my ex had been blissfully quiet lately, and I wasn't eager to stir up drama. But she looked genuinely miserable, and my cousin had always taught me to be polite to people who seemed like they needed a friendly face. Mind if I sit? I asked, gesturing to the empty stool next to her. She looked up, surprised. Oh, hey. Yeah, sure. You look like you're having about as much fun as I am, I said, ordering a beer from the bartender. She laughed, and I realized I'd never really heard her laugh before. It was a good laugh. Genuine. That obvious, huh? Let me guess. Blind date gone wrong. Worse. Forced networking event. My boss thought it would be good for my career to schmooze with potential clients. She gestured around the bar, which was full of people watching the game and definitely not discussing business deals. Turns out nobody here is interested in talking about graphic design over buffalo wings. Graphic design? That's cool. What kind of stuff do you work on? Mostly corporate websites and marketing materials. Nothing glamorous, but it pays the bills. We fell into easy conversation. She was funny and smart, with opinions about everything from the terrible ref calls to the best places to get tacos in town. I found myself actually enjoying talking to her, which was weird because I'd assumed she'd be just like my ex-wife. Can I ask you something? She said after we'd been talking for about an hour. Sure. How are you holding up? With everything that happened? I shrugged. Better than expected, honestly. The divorce was the right call. She nodded slowly. I figured you'd say that. What do you mean? Nothing bad. It's just that she always complained about you, but the things she complained about were actually good things. That caught my attention. Like what? Like how you were too practical. Too focused on boring stuff like budgets and savings accounts. Too unwilling to be spontaneous. Those sound like complaints to me. They do until you watch someone struggle to pay rent because they spent their mortgage money on a spontaneous weekend trip to Vegas. I nearly choked on my beer. She did that. Last month. Posted pictures all over Instagram of her living her best life. Then called me crying because she didn't know how she was going to make her car payment. Did you help her out? She shook her head firmly. Nope. I told her to call her bank and work out a payment plan. I'm not in the business of enabling bad decisions. I stared at her. That's exactly what I told her about the mortgage. Great minds think alike. We talked until the bar started closing down. I walked her to her car, and she turned to face me before getting in. This might be weird to say, but I always wondered what you were actually like. She talked about you so much, but I never felt like I was getting the real picture. What kind of picture were you getting? Honestly, she made you sound boring and controlling, but you're neither of those things. Thanks, I think. It's definitely a compliment. She paused, seeming to consider something. Would you maybe want to grab coffee sometime? I promise no relationship drama or ex-wife gossip. Just coffee. I thought about it for exactly 2 seconds. I'd like that. We exchanged numbers, and I watched her drive away with a smile on my face that I couldn't quite explain. 2 days later, we met at a coffee shop downtown. What was supposed to be a quick coffee turned into a 3-hour conversation about everything except my ex-wife. She was passionate about her work, well-traveled, and had this dry sense of humor that caught me off guard in the best way. "So what's your story?" I asked as we walked around the downtown area after finishing our coffee. "How'd you end up in graphic design?" "Pure accident. I was pre-med in college, but I kept failing chemistry. My roommate was an art major and she dared me to take a design class as an elective. Turned out I was better at making things look good than I was at memorizing the periodic table. Do you miss it? The medical track?" "Sometimes. But I like creating things that didn't exist before. There's something satisfying about starting with a blank screen and ending up with something that actually helps a business succeed." We ended up getting dinner and then drinks after dinner. By the time I walked her to her car again, it was almost midnight. "This was really nice," she said, and I could tell she meant it. It was. "We should do it again." "I'd like that." As I drove home, I realized I hadn't thought about my ex-wife once during the entire evening. That felt significant somehow. Over the next few weeks, we started seeing each other regularly. Coffee dates turned into dinner dates, turned into weekend activities. She introduced me to art galleries and farmers markets. I showed her hiking trails and taught her how to play pool. The more time we spent together, the more I realized how different she was from my ex-wife. She paid for her own meals without making a big deal about it. She showed up when she said she would. She didn't create drama out of minor inconveniences. Most importantly, she treated me like an equal partner in whatever we were doing, not like a personal assistant whose job was to solve her problems. "You know," she said one evening as we were walking through a park near her place, "I owe you an apology." "For what?" "For not seeing what was really happening in your marriage." I knew she could be demanding, but I didn't realize how bad it had gotten. "It wasn't your job to fix my marriage." "No, but I was supposed to be her friend. Real friends tell each other when they're screwing up." I stopped walking and looked at her. "Why didn't you?" "Because I was a coward. It was easier to just listen to her complain than to tell her she was being unreasonable. But watching how she's handled the divorce made me realize I should have spoken up." "What do you mean?" "She expected you to keep solving all her problems even after she divorced you. That's not how friendship works. That's not how anything works." I smiled. "That's what I kept trying to tell her." "Well, for what it's worth, I think you handled it perfectly. You gave her exactly what she asked for." That night, as I was driving home, I realized that what had started as coffee with an acquaintance had turned into something I hadn't expected to find again. Something real and uncomplicated and good. My ex-wife still didn't know we were spending time together, but I had a feeling that was about to change. The revelation came on a Saturday afternoon in the most ordinary way possible. I was at Target with my new girlfriend, debating the merits of different coffee makers, when we heard a sharp gasp from the next aisle over. "What the hell is this?" I recognized that voice immediately. My ex-wife stood at the end of the aisle, staring at us like she'd just witnessed a crime scene. She was holding a basket full of cleaning supplies and wearing the expression of someone who'd just discovered her world had shifted without permission. "Hey," I said casually, not letting go of my girlfriend's hand. "How's it going?" "How's it going?" she repeated, her voice climbing an octave. "How's it going? You're here with her." My girlfriend squeezed my hand gently, but didn't say anything. She'd known this moment would come eventually. "We're shopping for coffee makers," I said, gesturing to the display behind us. "What brings you to Target? Don't you dare act like this is normal." Her eyes shifted between us, processing the obvious comfort level we had with each other. "How long has this been going on?" "How long has what been going on?" "This." She waved her hand frantically in our direction. "You and my best friend." "About 2 months," my girlfriend said calmly. "And I haven't been your best friend for a while now." That stopped my ex-wife cold. "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means that friendship goes both ways. You only called when you needed something. You never asked how I was doing. You spent every conversation complaining about your problems without showing any interest in mine. I was going through a divorce. That was 6 months ago, and even before the divorce, our friendship was pretty one-sided. I watched this exchange with fascination. My girlfriend was stating facts without any emotion or drama, just straightforward honesty. "I can't believe you're dating my ex-husband," my ex-wife said, her voice getting louder. "That's like Girl Code 101. You don't date your friend's ex." Former friend, my girlfriend corrected. And girl code doesn't apply when the friend treated both her husband and her friends like personal assistants. That's not what I did. Really? When's the last time you asked me about my job, or my family, or anything happening in my life that wasn't related to solving one of your problems? My ex-wife opened her mouth, then closed it. She clearly couldn't think of an example. And when's the last time you called him for anything other than emergency repairs or financial help? My girlfriend continued. Because from what I can tell, your idea of friendship is pretty much identical to your idea of marriage. Other people exist to make your life easier. That's not fair. Neither is expecting people to drop everything and fix your problems while offering nothing in return. I decided to jump in before this escalated further. Look, this doesn't have to be a big drama. We're all adults here. Adults. My ex-wife turned her attention back to me. Adults don't date their ex-wife's best friend behind their back. We weren't sneaking around, I said. We just didn't see any reason to announce it. You and I are divorced. You wanted to be friends. Friends respect each other's dating choices. This is different, and you know it. How is it different? Because she knows things about our marriage. Personal things. My girlfriend laughed, but not in a mean way. Like what? Like how you expected him to handle every household problem while you complained that he was too practical. Like how you spent money you didn't have and then got angry when he pointed out the math didn't work. You told her about our private conversations? My ex-wife asked me. Actually, no. I figured most of that out just from listening to you complain about him for the past 2 years. This was clearly not going the way my ex-wife had expected. She'd probably imagined catching us would lead to guilt and apologies. Instead, she was getting a reality check from 2 people who'd apparently compared notes about her behavior. I need to talk to you, she said to my girlfriend. Alone. We can talk right here. This is private. No, it's not. You made it public when you decided to confront us in the middle of Target. My ex-wife looked around and seemed to notice for the first time that other shoppers were starting to stare. Fine, but this conversation isn't over. Actually, it is, my girlfriend said. I'm done pretending your problems are everyone else's responsibility. I'm done listening to you complain about consequences you created for yourself. And I'm definitely done feeling guilty for being happy with someone who treats me like an equal partner instead of unpaid help. So that's it. You're choosing him over our friendship. I'm choosing myself over your drama. There's a difference. My ex-wife turned to me with desperate eyes. And you're okay with this? With dating someone who was supposed to be loyal to me? I'm okay with dating someone who's honest and supportive and doesn't expect me to solve all her problems, I said. Someone who actually wants to be with me instead of just wanting what I can do for her. That's not what I wanted. Really? Because when you asked for friendship after the divorce, you immediately started calling me for home repairs and financial bailouts. That doesn't sound like friendship. That sounds like wanting to keep all the benefits of having a husband without any of the commitment. She stared at both of us like we'd betrayed her on a fundamental level. I can't believe this is happening. What exactly is happening? My girlfriend asked. 2 people who were both tired of your selfishness found each other and discovered they're compatible? That's not a conspiracy. That's just life. You were supposed to be my friend. I was your friend. Until I realized that friendship with you meant being your unpaid therapist and occasional ATM. That's not friendship. That's exploitation. My ex-wife's face crumpled, and for a moment I almost felt sorry for her. But then I remembered all the times she'd manipulated situations to get what she wanted, and the sympathy faded. This isn't over, she said, backing away from us. Friends don't do this to each other. You're right, my girlfriend called after her. They don't. That's why we're not friends anymore. We watched her storm out of the store, leaving her basket of cleaning supplies abandoned in the aisle. Well, I said after a moment. That went better than expected. Really? Yeah. I thought she'd cause a bigger scene. My girlfriend laughed and picked up the coffee maker we'd been looking at before the interruption. Give her time. I have a feeling the real drama is just getting started. She was right. But for the first time in years, I was looking forward to seeing how it played out. Because now I had someone on my side who understood that friendship, like marriage, should be a partnership between equals, not a one-way support system with unlimited demands and no boundaries. The final confrontation came 2 weeks later. I was expecting it. My ex-wife showed up at my door on a Thursday evening, dressed up like she was going to a job interview. Hair done, makeup perfect, wearing the dress she knew I used to like. We need to talk, she said, pushing past me into my living room. About what? About us. About this mistake we've both made. I closed the door and leaned against it. What mistake is that? This whole divorce thing. This ridiculous friendship experiment. It's not working. It's working fine for me. She turned around, putting on her most sincere expression. I've been thinking a lot about what went wrong between us. I realize I made some mistakes. I was probably too demanding sometimes. Sometimes. Okay, a lot of the time. But people can change. I can change. Why would you want to change now? Because I miss you. I miss us. I miss having someone who actually cares about me. I almost laughed. You mean you miss having someone who solves your problems for free? That's not what this is about. Then what's it about? She stepped closer. It's about realizing that what we had was special, that I threw away something good because I thought I wanted independence, but independence is just loneliness with extra bills. And what about her? I gestured toward the kitchen, where my girlfriend was making dinner. What about her? She was just using you to get back at me anyway. That's not true. Of course it is. Think about it. What are the odds that my best friend just happened to fall for my ex-husband? She planned this whole thing. My girlfriend appeared in the doorway, wiping her hands on a dish towel. Actually, I didn't plan anything. I just recognized a good man when I saw one. This is none of your business, my ex-wife snapped. It became my business when you showed up at our home uninvited. Our home? This isn't your home. It is now. My ex-wife looked between us, finally understanding that this wasn't a casual fling. You moved in together? Last week, I said. Turns out it's easy to live with someone who doesn't treat you like hired help. Her face crumpled. But we could try again. We could go to counseling. We could work on our problems. What problems? I don't have any problems. My life has been great since we got divorced. That's not true. It absolutely is. I sleep better. I'm less stressed. I actually enjoy coming home. I have more money because I'm not constantly bailing someone out of financial emergencies they created for themselves. I would pay you back for all of that. With what money? You're renting out your house and living with a roommate. She had no answer for that. Here's the thing, I continued. You got exactly what you asked for. You wanted a divorce, so we got divorced. You wanted to stay friends, so I've been your friend. I've given you advice when you asked for it. I've respected your independence. I've treated you exactly like I'd treat any other friend. But friends help each other. They do, within reason. They don't pay each other's mortgages or drop everything for non-emergencies. My girlfriend stepped forward. And real friends definitely don't show up at your ex's house trying to break up his new relationship. I'm not trying to break up anything. I'm trying to fix what we broke. There's nothing to fix, I said firmly. We're not broken. We're divorced. By choice. Your choice. People make mistakes. You're right. And your mistake was thinking you could have all the benefits of being married without any of the commitment. You wanted independence until you realized independence means taking care of yourself. She started crying then, but I didn't feel the usual urge to comfort her. So that's it. You're just going to throw away 12 years. I didn't throw anything away. You did, when you decided you wanted something different. But I was wrong. Maybe. But that doesn't make it my problem to solve. She looked at my girlfriend with pure hatred. I hope you're happy. You destroyed a marriage. I didn't destroy anything. You destroyed your own marriage by treating your husband like an employee instead of a partner. My ex-wife turned back to me one last time. Is this really what you want? Some rebound relationship with my leftovers? That was the wrong thing to say. First of all, I said, my voice going cold, she's not your leftovers. She's not your anything. You threw away her friendship the same way you threw away our marriage. Second, this isn't a rebound. This is what a healthy relationship looks like. You wouldn't recognize it because you've never been in one. Get out, my girlfriend said quietly. Now. My ex-wife looked around the room like she was seeing it for the first time. This is really happening. You're really choosing her over me. I'm choosing happiness over drama. I'm choosing partnership over servitude. I'm choosing someone who wants to be with me, not someone who wants me to be their personal problem solver. She walked to the door, then turned around. You'll regret this. The only thing I regret is not doing it sooner. After she left, my girlfriend and I stood in the quiet living room for a moment. Think she'll try again? She asked. Probably, but it won't matter. Why not? I pulled her close and smiled. Because I finally learned the difference between being needed and being wanted, and I'd rather be wanted. 6 months later, I heard through mutual friends that my ex-wife had moved back in with her parents. The house had been foreclosed on, and her roommate situation hadn't worked out. I felt bad for her, the way you feel bad for anyone going through hard times. But I didn't feel responsible for fixing it. That's what real friendship looks like. Caring without controlling, supporting without enabling. And sometimes, the kindest thing you can do for someone is let them face the consequences of their choices, even if they used to be your wife.